society. High society. High society.
Is drug addiction? It's not a crime. It's a sickness. And you start from there, and then you make decisions on the basis of that instead of starting with them being criminals.
Hello and welcome to another edition of High Society. My name is David Malmo-Levine, and on today's show we're going to be looking at Buzzkill technology, which is the big pharma's genocidal master plan, their final solution in the drug war to remove the possibility of humans feeling the euphoria from different botanical substances. This is a recent article that came from London, England. It says here, a radical scheme to vaccinate children against future drug addiction is being considered by ministers, The Independent on Sunday reveals. Under the plans, doctors would immunize children at risk of becoming smokers or drug users with an injection. The scheme could work similarly to the current nationwide measles, mumps, and rubella vaccination program. Childhood immunization would protect adults from the euphoria experienced by users, making drugs such as heroin and cocaine pointless to take. Now hold on a second. I thought euphoria was a good thing. Most definitions of euphoria describe it as an intense good feeling. So what they're protecting us from are intense good feelings.
Said you've been belligerent, talked when unauthorized, been resentful in attitude toward work in general, that you're lazy.
Chewing gum in class.
Well, the real reason that you've been sent over here is because they wanted you to be evaluated.
Yeah.
To determine whether or not you're mentally ill. This is the real reason. Why do you think they might think that?
Well, as near as I can figure out, it's because I fight and fuck too much.
It says here, such vaccinations are being developed by pharmaceutical companies and are due to hit the market within 2 years. The Department of Trade and Industry has set up a special project to investigate ways of using science to combat drug and nicotine addiction. They say it as if nicotine isn't a drug. A national anti-drug immunization scheme is one of the proposals by the Brain Science Addiction and Drugs Project, an expert committee of scientists appointed by the government earlier this year. Professor David Nutt, a leading government drug advisor who sits on the committee, said anti-drug vaccines for children are likely to be among the panel's recommendations when it reports next March. Professor Nutt, head of psychopharmacology at the University of Bristol and a senior member of the Advisory Council on the Misuse of Drugs, said, people could be vaccinated against drugs at birth, as you are against measles. You could say cocaine is more dangerous than measles, for example. It is important that there is a debate on this issue. This is a huge topic. Addiction and smoking are major causes of premature death. According to the government's own figures, the annual cost of drug addiction to the economy through related crime and health problems is $12 billion. Nonsense. It's ignorance and prohibition which cost society, not addiction or attraction to effective stimulants, relaxants, and euphorics. We humans have been using these botanicals in somewhat lower doses for thousands of years with no troubles at all. So opium is a great painkiller, but it should not be used recreationally, as it tends to dull the senses, and taking too much renders it less effective to emergency pain. Now, coca is a great stimulant and works best in low-dose beverages. Just ask Freud and Edison. But if you use too much of the concentrate over a long period of time, you tend not to be able to feel good any other way. And there's no evidence to suggest that tobacco, when grown organically and taken in moderation, is anything other than a calming or hallucinogenic herb, depending on dose.
Yes, Don. The grosses are in.
Well,
Don, I think it's important to remember that these things are never quite as bad as they may seem at first. I mean, the data can be interpreted in many ways. I think it's important to bear that in mind. There are a lot of ways of interpreting the data, Don. I think that you should just...
you son of a bitch, word number one.
Yeah, I got you, Don.
Son of a bitch, we beat penicillin.
We kicked penicillin sorry ass, Don.
Could I have the room for a second, you son of a bitch?
Yes, Don, I understand.
We beat penicillin!
There is a strong incentive for the government to find new ways to halt spiraling addiction. Last week, The Independent on Sunday revealed that cocaine use had trebled in Britain, with increasing numbers of users switching to crack cocaine. Scientists are already conducting trials for drugs that can be used by doctors to vaccinate against cocaine, heroin, and nicotine addiction. Vaccinate against addiction. See, there are a few problems with that. Problem number one, the drugs are not inherently harmful. So we're basically throwing away our most important mind tools just because of their potential for misuse. It's like throwing away a hammer just because you hit your thumb with it. There's problem number two, which is, what if the vaccine interferes with our natural ability to feel pain and pleasure? What if we're rendered to be emotionless droids by these vaccines? They haven't really, taken that into account in any of these reports. And then problem number three, which is that these vaccines don't work. There isn't evidence to suggest that vaccines work, and that there is a lot of evidence to suggest that they're very dangerous, that they're a money-making scheme for big companies to experiment with disease as a weapon and a protection racket. West Nile virus, anthrax, smallpox, and AIDS have been manufactured in laboratories and sold as weapons, and the government has bought them and given them to other governments, like Iraq, for example. And then these same companies make vaccines and medications to help deal with these diseases that they're creating. And that's a major conflict of interest.
Well, I've been working on a thing. It's sort of like stummies.
Go on, I like what I hear so far.
It's exactly like stummies.
And the twist is?
It's a much bigger pill.
I like a lot. Is it ready for production?
Yes, sir, it's ready to go.
Yeah, but have there been any side effects?
Yes, sir, a few side effects.
Well, that's okay. As long as there's no flipper babies, right, Don?
Well, there have been a few flipper babies.